So hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Supply Chain Talk. It's great that you can join us today. I'm delighted to have the opportunity yet again to host Supply Chain Talk. My name is Duncan Brock, and I work for the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. And I've had the pleasure to do a number of these episodes now and really enjoyed engaging with the guests that we bring on to talk about the various topics, but also engaging with you, the audience. So please do engage and share and talk to us as we're going forward about who you are, but also your thoughts on the topic as we go forward. We had a great discussion last week on commodity shortages and inflation. The three guests really bringing to life both the challenges of the shortages and inflation, but also some ideas and thoughts about what to do about that as you go forward. This week, very different. I mean, we're going to talk about going digital for the last mile delivery, a very logistics focused discussion. But actually, we're going to split this discussion into two halves. The first half, we're actually going to pick up and talk more about the geopolitical challenges associated with the potential of the Russia-Ukraine war and everything associated with it, because clearly it's front of mind for us all at the moment. And there's some really interesting thoughts, I think, about what that would do to a whole range of issues for us in supply chain. So that's the way we're going to run today's talk. We've got two guests, two experts in logistics and supply chain to join us, both from a South American background, which is going to be great because they're going to bring a very different perspective, I think, to the discussion. So I look forward to talking to them in a minute. Please do get involved. Those of you who are watching this live, we do have the chat function. Please do use it to get involved and to share stuff as we go forward. I see also that we've got people like John, Trudy, Selma, Charlotte, Mark joining us again. So great to see you guys. Great to have those of you who are coming back and watching another episode again. So welcome to you. But also, please use the Q&A. So if there's any specific things that you want to bring to us, to ask, to discuss, to talk about, please put them in the Q&A area, and I'll try and make sure we have enough time to go forward and use that. There is a little incentive on, we have a wonderful Supply Chain Talk mug, which I give out every week to the person who maybe adds the best chat comment or brings it to life in the best way with a good question. So I'll be looking out for that and making sure that we get a mug. And I know there's 2 or 3 people who are already joining us today who've already got a mug. So hello to you, Ashley, from windy Essex. So welcome to you as well. So what we're going to do is move on to bringing our first guest. Our first guest is Leonardo Marins. He's the head of logistics Europe and North Africa at BAT. British American Tobacco, I suppose, as we used to know it, but I know that they've changed their positioning. So, Leonardo, welcome to you. Thank you for joining us at Supply Chain Talk this week. And maybe just a very quick intro to yourself, if you can.
Thank you very much, Duncan. I'm glad to be here. So, I'm as you said in the beginning, I'm Brazilian, so from Latin America, and I work for BAT for more than 10 years. And in the last 5 years, I'm here in Europe doing different things. Currently, I'm running the logistics for Europe, okay, in the middle of BAT transformation from a tobacco company to a new multi-category CPG. Okay, that's my challenge now.
Okay. And I suppose just to... we'll come back probably onto the changes that's going on at BAT as we go forward, and we'll bring that to life, I'm sure, as we go through this discussion, Leonardo. But maybe what I'd like to do first is maybe just let's pull up the news article that we want to talk about, and we probably could have chosen a number of them about the whole Russian Ukraine conflict. But the one we want to sort of discuss is the one that was actually in SIP's news last week, and it was a report by a risk management company, Interos. And what was really interesting to me is they were talking about the exposure that a lot of organizations have got into Russia and into Ukraine in supply base. They were talking about 2,400 firms from the survey have got direct suppliers in Ukraine and Russia. They were talking about 5,000 firms having tier 3 suppliers in those two countries. But then they talked about the impact on supply chain. And there's 4 areas they picked up. One is gas prices. I mean, I think we'd all understand, the fact that actually if there is a conflict, gas prices could rise dramatically. They talk about sort of oil going up to $150 a barrel. Food prices was an interesting one, where they're talking about the fact that grain, particularly, the exposure to potential shortages of corn, wheat, barley, and rye could come from a conflict. Cybersecurity issues, if Russia starts to really attack Ukraine and cybersecurity, cyber attacks, they could easily spread to lots of other countries, as we know has happened before. And then lastly, probably the one that we'd all be familiar with is any impact associated with sanctions. We've lived through the challenges of China's war with America, with sanctions going backwards and forwards, America putting sanctions onto Turkey for steel. I mean, there's been a lot of those around. So very, very complex, I think, and certainly a lot more interrelated issues there than maybe I'd thought about. And I know, when we were talking about it yesterday, you were also saying you've got also within BAT exposure to supply issues within your own organisation. But what's your take on this? I mean, it sounds it is going to be a very serious situation, but it also sounds like there's a big impact could come from this if they actually do go to war.
Yes, in BAT, to understand the structure, we have two factories in Russia and one factory in Ukraine, and these two are big markets for BAT. The first thing that we look at is our people safety. So if they are okay, if they have everything they need to keep working and for their life, so their mental health in this difficult moment. But what BAT also have in our supply chain resilience is our business continuity plan. So we have mapped different situations in the business continuity plan. And of course, with the escalation of this tension in Russia and Ukraine, we took some actions. Okay, and first of all, it's Russia in our business is quite self-sufficient. They have most of suppliers in Russia, and they source their domestic market in most of case. Okay, it helps us to manage the supply chain, but for sure there are suppliers that are outside of this area, and we need to make sure that we build stock. And this has not been an easy task. Okay, I think we did quite well. We are reaching the targets for stock building, but we are having difficulties, for example, with carrier availability. Carriers want to cross the border. In the last week, it become even more restrict. But I think we pass well by this situation. Now is wait what's gonna happen and hope nothing will happen and dismantle all this operation.
Yeah, and you say, I mean, it's one thing building the stock, but actually, if you can't actually move the stock, that in itself becomes the challenge. So it's that sort of impact and that sort of tension all the way along the borders that is going to cause the issues. And as you say, first of all, we would always look after people's safety, but that has to be prime concern for us all. But there's a lot of knock-on impacts as well, aren't there? I mean, I think I assume then your production in Ukraine will could easily get to a point where it just comes to a standstill.
Yes, it is. And if we go into details, there are a lot of discussions on alternative routes to keep sourcing Ukraine. The one scenario that we have is if it's Odessa port is closed, what are the alternatives? So in our business continuity plan, we have some alternatives, and this is good. And now it's just a matter to start implement and be ready to implement if we need these alternatives.
I also imagine for BAT, your production facilities must be quite high energy users for your production. So I'd imagine any escalation and impact on energy prices, oil prices, gas prices, that's presumably then going to feed into real inflationary pressures for your business.
Yes, it's energy price is a high impact, not only Russian and the whole Europe. We have fuel surcharges, also another big impact in Europe. All reflection of these instabilities.
Yeah. So, I mean, concerning time. I mean, let's bring in our second guest for today. So, Julian Osorio, who's the director of Omnichannel Last Mile at Walmart in Canada. So, he's joining us from Toronto. When we spoke to him yesterday, as we were just chatting, he was in Bogota. So, I think he's Colombian, and then he's flown from Bogota up to Toronto. So, Julian, if you could join us, that would be great. And welcome to Supply Chain Talk, and thank you for joining us. Well, this morning for you, isn't it? It must be. So welcome to you. So, a quick intro to you, Julian, and what your role is at Walmart.
Thank you, Duncan. Thank you for the invite. Very happy to be here. I'm responsible to define the strategy for omnichannel last mile delivery in Canada, supporting our omnichannel strategy, which means everything that is fulfilled from stores under the e-commerce umbrella.
Okay. And I know you flew from Bogota to Toronto yesterday, so it's. I think you were talking about a slight difference in temperature between the two. Was there?
Yeah, big difference in temperature, like about 30 degrees difference. But my experience goes back from my times in Colombia in end-to-end supply chain, consulting, operations research background, from first mile, middle mile, some projects in manufacturing. And I've been living in Canada for the last 13 years, and different industry experience from courier, parcel industry, e-commerce, and now for over 4 years with Walmart Canada.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I'm just seen a chat in from Sana Sritha saying hi, Julian. So that must be one of your fans has joined to sort of watch today. So Julian, just looking at this sort of geopolitical challenges and the whole sort of Russian-Ukraine potential conflict. I mean, what's your take on it? And do you see for you where you are, and I suppose for Walmart, sort of major issues coming from this as we go forward?
Well, I mean, for us, related to supply chain and all that, I don't really have a lot of visibility on how that could potentially impact what we do. However, from the people standpoint, just to complement what Leonardo mentioned, is how can companies protect their people? How can companies have continuity plans in place to ensure that they're prepared for any situation, as well as understanding what could be the potential long-term, mid-term impact with the Ukrainian economy, right? So they have gone through the economic cycles as every other country in the world, but they have grown a lot, and this could be just a huge impact to their economy. Going back to their early 2000s when they had some issues. So this is going to be, of course, a huge economic impact for Ukraine. I'm sorry.
And I think clearly Walmart, you're in a very competitive retail market. So any inflationary pressures coming through the supply chain, whether it be sort of grain or the gas prices coming through, or anything that is going to cause you issues with your logistics flow, presumably that's going to be of concern to you.
Yeah, it's a concern. Is an ongoing concern on overall supply chain, and the products that we sell is being tough, right? So the supply chain is being stretched across the world for the last 2 years, and we see that impact also in Canada. We bring a lot of products from the US and overseas, so we have been able to partner with the different vendors on how to optimize that supply chain and minimize the impact to our stores and to our customers on the e-commerce side. So it's been tough, and potentially this disruption can cause even further impact to our supply chain.
As you say, it's just yet another shock, isn't it? I mean, we seem to have gone through so many recently, and each one's sort of, but then each one just layers on top of the others. And I think back to Leonardo, you were talking about building up stock. Having been in the UK for all my working life, Brexit we seem to be building up stock almost every year to cope with what might happen with Brexit, and it just seems to be a real change to the mindset around logistics from where we used to be. That actually we are now talking about a lot more buffers. We're talking about a need to have a lot more protection in the supply chain because we can't rely on things as they used to be. I mean, is that where you're at, Leonardo?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what we treat in our supply chain resilience. So how to deal with all these implications, external implications. Because if we don't have external implication, we have enough problems because as we are transforming the company to new products, our forecast accuracy is not perfect. So it's far from being perfect. So we're launching products every month, and it's already bringing a lot of pressure in our network. So more this external is on top of this. It's even worse.
Yeah. There's also I actually saw a news story this morning that was talking about, and I think it relates to one of the comments in the chat from Ashley about there's a lot of natural commodities, metals and so on that come from both Russia and Ukraine. And there was actually an article in today's, again on SIPS, that was talking about the fact that chip production, could yet again be impacted because of the potential shortages of neon, krypton, xenon, and other sort of precious metals that are certainly mined in both Ukraine and in Russia. So there's a knock-on effect here again, isn't it? I mean, we've already got chip shortages. We've already got the impact of those through all sorts of goods and services that impacts us. And this could be yet another big impact. And I think the US was saying, "Oh, go and find alternative sources." I'm not quite sure it's as easy to find an alternative source as krypton as you might like, but it's interesting that those long-term implications are things that maybe we're all starting to try and get our heads around on supply chain. I mean, do you agree with that? Is that something that you're looking at as well?
Yes, these metals are not much relevant for the BAT network, but we do have some knock-on effects. For example, when the energy price goes up, the industry start to consume more wood to generate steam and generate the energy locally, and then we have an impact on logistics because we use wood for packaging, you use wood for pallets, and then the price goes up. So yes, we see similarities on this shortage, causing a non-apparent direct shortage, causing another effect in our network.
Okay. For you, Julian, within Walmart, I mean, presumably it's chip shortages would flow into things like electronic goods and some of the stuff that you sell through the stores. I mean, is that, I suppose, yet another potential concern for you?
Yeah, it could be another potential, part of the merchandising strategies and making sure that all the products and all the different lines of products we sell, have enough stock. It could be a potential concern for us in that.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like it's just one of those topics we're just going to have to keep an eye on, isn't it? I mean, it's still breaking news, and certainly I was watching the news very closely yesterday about is it de-escalating or are there still going to be that tension? I think we all hope that it doesn't escalate into sort of a real conflict. But as you said, let's keep an eye on it. Let's hope that everyone stays safe and well, and probably the long-term implications and supply chains we'll come back to, I'm sure, on future supply chain talks. Maybe let's switch gear. The focus we wanted to also cover today was around going digital for last mile delivery, and obviously for both yourselves, Leonardo and Julian, that's probably much more heartland for you in terms of your roles. I'd be very interested to get your perspectives on this in terms of the specific topics that we wanted to talk about. And maybe a starting point here about this last mile delivery, this focus on making sure we've really got the whole logistics flow perfect into stores and into the places where goods need to be. But I suppose the starting point here is probably digitalization. I mean, it's made a huge change to how supply chains work, making them a lot more efficient, agile, customer focused. It'd be great to get your take on, I suppose, how digitalization has improved your supply chains, but probably also what's next for you. How do you see that continuous strive for improvement in efficiency and agility through your supply chains? And maybe Julian, do you want to start first with Walmart and your thoughts there?
Yep, sure. So it's been a great journey transforming last mile from, even for in the last decade, right? Going from paper, going from big
You seem to have lost you for a minute, Julian.
quotation
We're having a slight
finding numbers and even the potential the products and the orders that they were handling mainly on the B2B side. Now on the B2C side, customers are more demanding nowadays, and the also the demand for digitalization of the end-to-end process has become more important to the success of the business. And with the pandemic, it has accelerated the need for that. We've been working on a lot of that. Even before the pandemic, we identified the need of digitalizing our last mile and connected to all the different systems around e-commerce and omni-channel offering that allows us to provide the visibility we wanted to have, that can flow data and information through the end-to-end delivery cycle, and that helped us to accelerate our growth when the pandemic came. Key for our success going into new platforms and last mile delivery platforms and connecting those platforms to our order management systems and other systems that allows us to manage and oversee our end-to-end processing in a better way.
And so, are you seeing from that actually, you've obviously significant investment must have gone into getting to that sort of end-to-end visibility and transparency? I suppose, is there still more to do? Are there areas where you're still not seeing that coming through in the way that you'd like?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
I said, Julian, are you still, you said that obviously you've made great strides in Walmart in terms of that end-to-end transparency and visibility, but are there still areas to improve?
Yeah, definitely are demanding in terms of how they see it, how we communicate to the customers, how we offer transparency to our customers in the end-to-end. They want the information now. They want the information on demand, right? So it's more important now. It's not having the businesses going, is how we can pass that to our customers and make sure that they also have that visibility. So a lot of opportunity on more automation, automating processes, AI, blockchain opportunities to include within our existing platforms to automate and optimize how we communicate to our customers and how we show them where the order is and what's the status of their order and when they're gonna get it, and if there is any delays or any issues, how we communicate those issues and set up new expectations to them. There is a lot of opportunity there for automation and more intelligence.
It also sounds, I think you said your customers are maybe demanding even more than they had before, which in a way that's driving some changes as we go forward. I mean, Leonardo, on the same topic about digitization and the improvements that's come from that. I mean, within BAT, have you seen the same sort of both changes you've made already, but also the potential for a lot more to be done going forward to really improve this agility and efficiency of the supply chain?
Yes, digitalization is at the core of the strategy. So if you go back 4 years, our IT CIO became a board member in BAT and took over this digital agenda. And since then, we are transforming the company in terms of digital. But if you focus on the supply chain, I would say that everything starts. We need to go back 10 years. 10 years ago, BAT was operating with different ERPs in different locations, different regions. Then we did a huge project that combined and put all operations in one single ERP platform. So all the countries operating, they are in the same SAP platform. Okay, with this movement, it enabled us a lot grow on other systems and with fast implementation. So we connect with Salesforce. Now we are connecting a new planning tool that's more operating as a platform in cloud, and all facilitated by the fact that we have just one ERP that makes our life much easier. And we move in the last 10 years, we move from a kind of register step in supply chain in the system, like a repository of data, to a more intelligent movement. So now we have much more alerts if something's go wrong. We enable a lot of automations in the system, things like extract information, upload here. Is much more automated using the robotic process automation. And if you look at the future is a move to a more digital twins simulation. So in a way that we can simulate, for example, put in a system, what happens if we close Ukraine? So yes, we have this option here, then this is the impact in your network. So I think this is the future that we want to achieve.
And I suppose, and maybe Leonardo, that also picks up a question that came in from Habby Gill, and it was directed at Julian, but it's probably a good question for both of you, because Leonardo, you were just talking there about connecting with Salesforce, connecting into ERP. The question here was, how are you connecting your systems with that of the delivery vendors? And maybe Julian, I mean, having come from that sort of background as well, I mean, is that still to be done, or do you have that sort of real live feed into delivery vehicles as well? I'd be interested in both your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we've been working for the last maybe 3-4 years on enhancing and improving our what we call last mile delivery platforms, and making them so flexible that we can connect them through any delivery channel, any company, any partner, any vendor, in our even internal systems, and centralize all that information in a type of a control tower environment. So to answer specifically the question is we connect via API. So that's one of our requirements, and we have two-way communication with our vendors in our own transportation last mile delivery systems and fleet, right? So we here in Canada, similar to what Asda in UK used to do or is doing, is fleet deliveries. We also have that proportion of our deliveries to fleet. So we have integrated in our own system, our own fleet, our own tracking systems via API, as well as our partners. We work with gig economy based delivery partners here in Canada, and we have double way communication. So they feed us on near real time, and we centralize all that data and expose it to the business so we can manage that more effectively.
That's great. That's good to hear. And you say it's very interesting environment. I mean, Leonardo, I mean, you talked about your integration, and is that also covering delivery vendors as well?
Yes, Duncan. We need to consider that BAT is in different stages in different parts of the world. So our communication with carriers and deliverers can be different. So I can give you an example. Brazil is a big market for BAT, and what we do, we have a platform connected to our systems that they can do all the routing, and they allocate the carriers. They can also do the crowdsourcing, so they can open this delivery to a kind of Uberization. But in Brazil, we do have power to do it. If you bring to this discussion to Europe, so for the cigarette we sell most to our distribution, so all the transport is more on the big trucks. Okay, but when we get to the direct to consumer, the new categories, the vaping, tobacco heating products, then we are making revenue relevant. It's not a small company on this, it's already a big company, but we are still small. So our relationship with carriers is small. So what we do is we rely on our 3PLs that operate in the market, and they deal with the carriers. They allocate our deliveries, our sales to the carriers, and we use their rates and their way to manage the carriers. It's different. Europe orchestration is more with our 3PLs. Countries like Brazil, Pakistan, and other big markets, we do ourselves with support of systems.
Okay, so a blended model, really, depending
Yes.
on the market that you're in. And I suppose that also comes to one of the other points we wanted to touch on, was this sort of, it's a great phrase of having an integrated ecosystem, around the whole supply chain. I mean, is that, are we there yet? So everyone's got total visibility and it's all transparent to everyone in the supply chain, or is that still some way away? Because it sounds great. And obviously the more that everyone can see of what's going on and where things are happening, and the whole end-to-end piece that Julian talked about, are we there yet, or is that still some work to do to get that full integrated ecosystem in place?
I think we still have a journey to go beyond. Okay, we still integrate a lot with our partners, with our logistic lead providers. We have a big control tower in Europe, running all the road transport in Europe. We have a big control tower for marine and air transport. So this part, this connection with the last mile, is pretty much done by our LLP, logistic lead provider. So the communication with LLP is perfect? No, it's not perfect, but we are getting much better. We have a tool that can monitor our containers all around the world and can estimate using machine learning what's the time that these containers will be arriving at the port. And usually, not by surprise, they are more accurate than the shipping lines. Okay, and it's bringing us some competitive advantage, because we can see impacts and so on. Yes, I think we are getting better, but we are not in the everything flowing end to end. No, we are not.
Okay, I mean, Julian, it sounds like within Walmart, you're probably closer in terms of that whole ecosystem and integration across the piece from what you described. I mean, are you there, or are there still pockets that you still believe there's still some work to do to really get that full, transparent integration there that you need?
Yeah, I believe we, as an overall e-commerce Walmart organization, are leading the way on that ecosystem integration, specifically on the e-commerce omnichannel strategy and approach. We still have a lot of opportunity to enhance that ecosystems by bringing other part of the business into that visibility. Our regular, inbound transportation, distribution center, and high velocity distribution centers, etc. I believe there is opportunity for us to integrate those ecosystems so we can link all the pieces of all the chains in our supply chain end to end with a customer focus and providing that transparency and that visibility on the end to end. But on the e-commerce, I believe we're leading the way. We invest heavily on technology and developing and enhancing our own products and tech platforms, and that allows us to always keep the customer as our priority and make sure that we achieve what we're supposed to deliver and give them the transparency.
So because you cut out slightly on us at the end there, Julian, but I think you were talking about the fact that there's a great you're getting close. I think the other question I was going to ask is, I suppose with Walmart particularly, I mean, I mean, Leonardo was there talking about slightly different approaches in different countries for BAT. Within Walmart, it sounds like you're a lot more integrated. Very similar approach that you're taking in all the countries that Walmart have got a presence in. Or is that fair?
Yeah, different markets move at different speeds, and in some cases, Canada leads the way in some, for example, fulfillment technologies and capabilities, and in other cases, in terms of business operating model, Walmart Mexico leads the way, and many other aspects, Walmart US leads the way. But we plan each other, so we can continue be uh, updated and trending and looking at the right direction and following the right direction.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Maybe I want to come to a question that Benjamin Davies has asked, and I think it links to the focus on last mile delivery strategies, and maybe you've both got slightly different approaches here, but it builds on a previous episode of Supply Chain Talk. Actually, was when COP26 was on, talking about sustainability, and the question is what are you doing, either BAT and Walmart, to reduce emissions and improve sustainability with their last mile delivery strategies? So it's very much focused on that delivery bit. And obviously for you, Leonardo, a lot of that's going through 3PL. For you, Julian, is very much heart of what you do. How are you measuring whether that's sort of working, and what happens if you fail? Which I think is also an interesting comment there. But maybe, bringing this to life from a sustainability angle as well would be quite interesting. So, I mean, Leonardo, from your perspective, and obviously maybe working with your 3PLs, I mean, how are you seeing, what's the focus there in terms of that sort of reducing emissions and improving sustainability?
Yes, this is a big topic. We are not looking at this only for last mile, but for all our network. We have initiatives like mapping our waste footprint across the network. This year, BAT also working with Shark Tank's innovation, and for Europe, for our operation in Europe, that is the bigger topic is water and waste reduction. So I'm one of the sharks in this evaluation, in this analysis. Yes, we expect to get some good progress on that. In the transport area, we include CO2 emissions in all our calculation now. Okay, it was not in the past. We always look at the cost, but now we're looking at a combination of cost and CO2. We constantly run what we call loss and elimination analysis. So we review our network and we see what are the lanes that we are spending more CO2, more higher cost, and we are tackling this. So we also create via our analytics, using the data from our LLP, a CO2 emission dashboard that we can see where are we consuming more CO2. BAT has the ambition to become carbon neutral by 2030 and net zero by 2050. Okay. And the last part of the question is good. It's what happens if you fail? So what we are doing is, if we fail, we need to fail fast in the beginning, then learn and change the approach. And this is exactly what we are doing. So it's for example, this situation with Russia, then to do stock builders, then we need to do more air freight to get goods there. But then the CO2 emission rocks. All this has been balancing our cost to serve, and is playing a big role. That's what I can say. I think our team is also proud that BAT is taking this very serious and put this in the agenda.
which probably is also the logo that's behind you, A Better Tomorrow. I mean, I suppose
Better tomorrow, yes.
In a way, that sort of spells where as a company you're heading. Sort of the total linkage to the rebranding is helping with, I suppose.
Yeah, just to give another example, even in cigarettes, that things that we are not investing anymore for what we call shaping sustainability, we are investing, because we are trying to change our filters that contain plastics to something that without plastics. Yes, there is a lot of initiative. Our packaging, remove completely plastic from our packages. Yes, there is a lot. It's a core accelerator, we call.
Okay, that's great. And Julian, I mean, from Walmart and in your role, I mean, is this? I assume it's a real focus for you, but again, what are you doing, and what are you measuring, and how are you going to sort of track performance there?
Yeah, no, that's one of the aspects in Walmart Canada that I really feel very proud of, and how we invest in sustainability in many different fronts, right? Food waste and consumable waste, and then emissions is big, important. We have commitments in about maybe 5 years for all our transportation to be zero emissions, neutral in terms of emissions. And the company is going to be receiving within the next year or so the first batch of Tesla's tractors and trailers to start replacing our fleet with electric vehicles. On the last mile as well, we're starting to test, and we have a commitment in about 3 to 4 years to transition all our last mile fleet to electric. Also, we just announced that we're removing all plastic bags across Canada in last mile as well, for online grocery deliveries and in-store sales. We're removing bags because we have a huge commitment to sustainability. We are also going to be launching a program this year in which we will be neutral in terms of emissions, specifically on last mile. So with our own fleet, with our carriers, with our last mile delivery partners, we are partnering in creating this program that we're going to be offsetting those emissions, and we're building this program because we're committed to sustainability. So, and this is being also implemented, and other markets are looking to implement some of these initiatives. But here in Canada, we have big investment as well in sustainability and making sure that we execute on those as soon as possible.
That's great, thank you. And you know, so lots of initiatives there, lots of real improvements that can be made. And I suppose from a consumer perspective, you'll be able to show how those improvements are happening, and actually sort of talk about the benefit that's come from making those changes. Because I think that's probably what we all want to see, isn't it? That we have the commitments of, being carbon neutral and net zero, but actually to be able to see those tangible programs in place, and then see the impact of those and be able to measure the impact. That's, I think, where we're all looking to get to, aren't we? And you just described a number there that maybe in a year's time we'll be able to sit down with you and look at, how that's improved and some of the changes that have made and how that's fed through the system. So that'd be great to see. I've probably got another question that's been sat there for a while that I would just want to come back to, which probably links to this broader topic of business continuity plans. I think it's from Frederick Mitzanis, who's saying, what does business continuity plan entails within a chaotic supply chain environment? I think that's a really interesting topic, because when the pandemic hit, I know I talked to a lot of organizations, and they went, we didn't have a pandemic on our business continuity plan. And actually the thought and the changes that went on there were quite important. But I suppose it's this, from a planning perspective and looking at the broader sort of issues we've got in business, I suppose the question there is, what are the, is business continuity planning still play a key part here? Because we're reacting a lot, but we also need to make sure we're planning for the future. So I'm interested in your thoughts on that.
So when I spoke about business continuity plan, I'm not saying that we must have response for everything. But I think what we do is we create scenarios, and we make sure that our systems are ready if we need to apply the scenarios, because there are two options to do this. So when the problem starts, then you take a group of people and they evaluate. But the other way is, with this group of people that will look at the problem, they can use the accelerators we have in the business continuity plan. So they can clearly see that our alternative for Ukraine is use a port on Bulgaria, is use a port on Romania. So they already have this in the plan. We already have routes mapped in our systems for this. We already have carriers that can do these routes. So all this should be part of our resilience. So if you take, for example, the microchips for the electronics, yes, we need to go to the second tier of suppliers to do this, because otherwise we're going to stop our device productions in China. And what are the alternatives? We must create a plan, and we will not have the right answer, but we have accelerators to get to the answer. Then we can react fast.
I suppose we've learned a lot over the last 2 to 3 years as well, haven't we?
Oh, for sure.
So it's back to that sort of capturing the learning, thinking about, well, we didn't get that bit right, so we need to do it differently. And you talked about failing fast when we talk about sustainability, and I think that's probably the same here. There's a lot of lessons learned that we need to make sure are built back into the plans. I mean, Julian, is that the same you're saying within Walmart? Your business continuity planning is continuing to be improved and changed as we go forward?
Yeah, I can speak to specifically on our e-commerce last mile. Our main focus is on creating what we call redundancy. So how can we pivot when something is not going well, whether it is weather related, right? We're in Canada, so we're hit with heavy winters, and how can we pivot to make sure that we keep that promise to our customers as much as we can. And that allows us also to not only create redundancy plans operationally at store levels, at fulfillment centers, etc., but technologically. How can we, pivot from one tech stack to another, or how can we, through our technology, pivot from last mile with our own fleet to last mile with our delivery partners? What if the tech solution fails with our delivery partners? How can we pivot to continue our operations with our own fleet or different carriers? So that redundancy is very important. That happens at all times. In the last 2 years, we've been hit with many of those, right? Different COVID waves, and we treat those as a kind of a redundancy opportunity for us to execute on. And I'm pretty sure as well on the supply chain, we have a lot of opportunities, a lot of different scenarios to build up on Leonardo's point. It's not only is just building these scenarios and understanding what if and what if and what if, and what are the different processes and opportunities you have in each of those scenarios. When they occur, then you action those plans, you open it up, and you execute on those. So of course, Walmart plans a lot on that area.
That's great. So I think you're both saying it's a key. It's business continuity planning is still there and really important, and it's improving on it. It's adding to it. I think often, I'm certainly reflecting on my career. There's often those times where those business continuity plans were done and put on a shelf, and it was almost like an exercise of, oh, we need one. Okay, let's do one. Whereas it feels now that all businesses are really bringing them to life and making them visible, improving them. Everyone understands them, maybe in a way that we weren't 2-3 years ago. And that can only be good, because that's that risk and resilience and focus that's coming through all supply chains. So it's very good. We're just about out of time, guys, I'm afraid. And I was just looking through the Q&A, and there's a great question from Selma Petrus about analysing the role of cloud computing in last mile delivery. I don't think we've got time to cover that, because it's a really good topic, but I'm sure would open up a whole broader discussion around the approach of cloud computing. So maybe that's a topic we need to come back to. And there's also a question from Asmini Gombo about sort of packaging in store on sustainability. But again, probably a topic on sustainability we're going to come back to as well. So I'm not going to cover those two today. But we've got some great questions coming in. I really do appreciate everyone who's put those questions and thought into those as we go forward. But what I'd like to say is to yourselves, Leonardo and Julian, thanks very much for contributing to this episode. It's been insightful, really good insights about what BAT and what Walmart Canada are doing, or Walmart are doing in this space, and some great examples of both improvements you're making, but also the sort of improvements you want to make going forward. So really appreciate both of you joining us today. And also, I'd like to thank the people who've participated on the chat and in the Q&A. It's said some great questions that have really sort of sparked off a different discussion. And probably, it's always one of those where I need to give this supply chain, or not this mug, but the mug to someone who's asked the best question. I think probably is Benjamin Davies on that one, because I think the question of linking the sustainability topic into this whole focus on last mile delivery was a great question. So Benjamin, congratulations. You can get the mug from us. So next week on Supply Chain Talk, we're going to be switching topic again, and we're going to be talking about eliminating slavery across the supply chain. And we've got some great guests joining us on that one. So that should be, again, a really interesting but very different topic, and a real important focus for all about sort of eliminating that modern slavery through that supply chain. So that'll be an interesting topic. So hopefully you can join us then. But in the meantime, Leonardo, Julian, thanks very much for joining today. It's been an excellent discussion. And thanks to everyone who's been listening and watching today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.